So you're heading back to school and you're looking for the best video editing laptop for your specific needs. We're gonna start all the way down in the budget category around $600 and work our way up to above $4,000 for the different laptops for your needs. And I'm gonna talk through the specs so you know exactly what you should be looking for when you go to purchase a laptop based on your specific use cases. Let's get right into it. First and foremost, looking at the entry-level laptops, these are laptops that I would recommend for 1080p video editing. Maybe it's something you're not gonna do predominantly. Maybe you're a design student or you're an art student, but you know you wanna do some video editing to maybe show off your work. You wanna do some social media posts. You wanna be able to edit some video, but it's not your main predominant use case. This is where I'd recommend these specific laptops. You have stuff like the i7-1240p CPU. That's a nice entry-level processor for video editing. It's not gonna have a lot of capabilities for something like 4K video editing, but it will be able to handle some good 1080p. Looking at the Lenovo Yoga 6, the Asus ZenBook 14, and the Dell Inspiron 14-inch. These are all gonna be suitable laptops for video editing, specifically 1080p. Now notice that each of the initial laptops have 8 gigs of RAM. That's definitely my entry point. That is the lowest absolute minimum I would recommend. I don't even say I fully recommend it. I'm just saying you can get by with 8 gigs of RAM. 16 to me is the starting point, or for Apple, Apple does have the 8 gig starting point in my opinion, just because the way that the RAM is configured on the Apple ecosystem, it is a unified RAM rather than a separate RAM modules. So it acts as 16 because it's faster. Little complicated there, and we can explain that in a different video. If you're curious, definitely comment below. But 8 gigs is the dead entry point in my opinion. 16 is my minimum recommended, and then 32 is where I'm saying that's the amazing sweet spot. But again, these are the entry-level laptops for 1080p video editing, what you should be looking for if you're looking to just get in and dabble a bit. The Apple MacBook Air M1 chip, that is something that I can see doing some 4K. It's not gonna be able to do a lot of heavy 4K lifting, but the reason I have it marked on here as 1080p is because I don't think you'll have any issues with 1080p on the Apple MacBook Air, and so that's where it's recommended in my lineups specifically. Now, next up on the list, we have the HP Laptop 15. This is where we're starting to get into some 4K video editing, giving me a little bit more confidence. I've reviewed now a handful of laptops with the i7-1260p, and if you want to see the dedicated reviews, I'll link them up at the end of this video, or you can go to my channel and find something like the Lenovo Yoga 9i Gen 7, and you can see how I think it handles video editing. The reason that I have these on the 4K, and the reason I'm making such a big deal of it, is because before this new processor, the i7-1260p, I did not recommend any laptops for 4K video editing without a dedicated GPU. And now we're to the point where, yes, you can definitely handle it on a thin and light laptop with great battery life, and I am saying you will not run into issues. So on this list, you can see those different laptops without dedicated GPUs being the HP Laptop 15, the Samsung Galaxy Book 2, and the Lenovo Yoga 9i Gen 7. These are great thin and light laptops for 4K video editing. However, if you're doing some more complicated 4K video editing with more motion graphics, with say a number of B-roll clips, music, voiceovers, and just more complicated projects, that is where I'd recommend you going with the HP Victus or the Lenovo Legion 5. They're gonna have a bit more punch for the package, and they're gonna be at or below some of these more expensive thin and light Ultrabooks. The benefit to the thin and light Ultrabooks is, yes, you can edit 4K, but you also have good battery life and you have a thin and light package. Now you're gonna have more performance with a thicker package. It's gonna be about the same price point or maybe a little bit less. So you're kind of deciding what you want. Thin functionality or more performance. Now moving forward, getting into the mid-range laptops. These are for more 4K video editing. We have the Acer Swift X, the Dell Gaming G15, the Asus Republic of Gamer Flow X13, the Dell XPS 13, and the MacBook Pro Air M2 and MacBook Pro M1. Now, in my opinion on this list, you're gonna continue to be safe with 4K video editing. I said some 6K video editing on the slide previously, and that's if you're gonna be looking at something like an RTX 3060 for the GPU. If you get an RTX 3050 Ti, you're gonna be able to do a lot of really great work in 4K, but when you move up into 6K video editing, that 3050 Ti just lags a little bit behind, and I wanna see you at a 3060 or even a 30 3070 if you're looking at 6K. So that's where you can kind of think about these charts landing. So say for instance, something like the Dell Gaming G15, I would say that would be a totally substantial 6K video editing laptop. But everything else on this list with the 3050 Ti's, or for instance, with the Dell XPS 13, it doesn't even have a dedicated GPU. I would keep you at 4K video editing. And looking at the MacBook Air M2 and the Pro M1, again, 4K video editing will work well on those two laptops. Now, moving up the price point at a medium pace, we're now at the true 4K to 6K video editing laptops. Any laptop on this list, I'm confident, will work well for 4K and 6K, albeit if you get the Asus ROG Strix G15 with the RTX 3050 Ti, because those are available. I have seen those on Amazon where you can get it with the 3050 Ti, and in that perspective, I would definitely go ahead and keep yourself at 4K video editing. I would not move up to 6K video editing. But one of my favorite laptops on this lineup for the price point, it's just absolutely ridiculous, is the MSI Pulse GL66. It's a 17-inch laptop, has an i7-12700H, and it's an RTX 3070. It's just stellar. Everything else on this list is great as well. If you want the best on-the-go laptops, I would go for the Lenovo Legion 7 Slim or the Asus Republic of Gamer Zephyrus G14. Those are my kind of things. All these laptops I love. I don't recommend any laptops that I don't like. A lot of people comment below and they're like, well, why don't you recommend this one? Or why didn't you recommend that one? Now, if it didn't make my list, well, if I listed every single laptop that I ever saw and thought was remotely okay for 4K video editing, this video would be 2 hours long. And so for me, I try to keep it to the ones that I see the most of, I have the most experience, and have the most availability. There's a lot of laptops that aren't available on the market right now, and so I try to keep this list to laptops you can purchase when this video is released, and what I anticipate will be available into the future after this video has been released. Now, the next lineup will be the Apple MacBook Pro lineup. These all are fantastic for 4K and 6K video editing. You're gonna pay the Apple tax, and the reason I think the Apple tax is so important for these specific laptops is because you can unplug your laptop from the charger, continue to have full performance of all the components inside of your laptop, and have great battery life. All the Windows laptops you see before me, that is not the case. If you buy a Windows laptop, you need to be plugged into the charger in order to get full performance out of that laptop. And as soon as you unplug from the charger, you're gonna diminish performance and you're not gonna have as great a battery life. That is the biggest pro con I see right now between Windows and Mac products, is the battery life and full performance when on or off charger. Keep that in mind when you're purchasing. I'm neither an Apple fanboy nor a Windows fanboy. I try to shoot straight down the middle to give you guys the information that you need. Now, before we head on to the next slide to look at more laptops, if you're curious about the exact pricing and availability, you can head down in the description below and click those links. If you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. But of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Very grateful when y'all use those links if you're making a purchase. Now, the next is going to be the mid to high range laptops. These are laptops that are moving up into the $1,400 to $1,700 price point, and then all the way up to around $2,600, looking at the StudioBook Pro 16 OLED and the Gigabyte Aero 16 OLED. Those are the more expensive laptops on this lineup. But honestly, one of the best laptops that you can buy for the money is going to be the Lenovo Legion 5i and 5i Pro. The reason being is these laptops are around the $1,500 to $1,800 price point, depending on when you're watching this video, of course, and they have historically, year over year, been some of the best performing laptops, the best built laptops. They have tons of features packed into them, and so it's just a really great buy. Now, if you're wondering my favorite laptop on this chart specifically, it's going to be the StudioBook Pro 16 by Asus, because this laptop packs a punch. It's got a beautiful OLED screen, and it has the dial. I love this dial. The dial is something that is actually not a gimmick, but it truly is a game changer. It's very helpful when conducting edits. It allows you to scroll through your timeline, click, and set up little key features. I've done a full review on the dial. If you want to check that out, it's over on my channel. But that is a great laptop as well. Another one that really stands out to me is the Gigabyte Aero 16. It has amazing performance packed into it, and it's a well-built laptop. However, it is more on the expensive side at around $2,300 to $2,600. Sometimes you can find it on a sale. Doesn't always happen. Fingers crossed. Check the links below for the live pricing right now. Now, keep in mind when selecting a laptop, you want to kind of look for a nice balance between CPU and GPU. Now, what I've recommended a lot is if you want to get really good playback as well as export times, then you want to look at an Intel processor and you want to save money. I would go for an i5-12500H, maybe an RTX 3060 or 3070. That'll put you at around the $1,300 price point. If you're on more of a budget, then I would look for something like the i5-12500H or the Ryzen 5 5600 or 6600H and an RTX 3050 Ti. Now that won't give you as great of playback with 6K, but you'll have no problems with 4K. And your export times will be solid. If you're looking for the thin and light Ultrabook, like I said, the i7-1260P or the Ryzen 7 6800U are really good. Now, if you're looking to get into 6K video editing, you're gonna want at least 32 gigs of RAM. That is the sweet spot. If you're gonna be in 1080p and 4K, I'd recommend 16 gigs of RAM, as I ranted a little bit earlier in the video, just because I think that'll give you enough space. The thing with RAM is every time you open up a program, you're starting to use RAM. So if you have Google open, you have Photoshop open, and you have your video editing software, you're gonna be consuming almost every little bit of 8 gigs of RAM, which is why I think 16 to me is the recommended starting point. If you can get up to 32, fantastic. As far as storage is concerned, most laptops these days come with solid state drives, which is my top recommended. They're more reliable, they're faster, and it's just a better bet. It's a better technology, it's a newer technology compared to the old hard disk drives, which basically use a spinning disk, an arm, and an eye, a little like digital eye, to read the information on the disk. It just is old technology. Now, punch for punch, don't overspend on your laptop, especially if you're going to school. You got enough expenses as it is, but don't cheap out. You want to hit kind of the happy medium price point. So let's say if you're somebody looking for a budget laptop, an affordable laptop, and you're going to do 4K video editing, you're going to be spending about $850 to $1,200, okay? Just to get what you really want for performance. If you're doing 1080p, you can totally get away with around $650 to about $800 to $900, no problem. If you're gonna be doing 6K, you're gonna be looking at anywhere from around $1,500 to upwards of $4,000. I mean, that's a bigger range because you can get, an i5-12500H, an RTX 3060, and you'll be in pretty good shape for 6K. But you can get all the way up to an i9-12900HX and an RTX 3080 Ti, and you'll just be like breezing through your footage. So there's a bit of a range, but make sure you don't overspend, but I weary you against underspending. Then you'll be just frustrated with the purchase. Maybe take a little extra time, save up a little bit more money, maybe, go mow some yards on the side or something. We've all been there, and get the laptop that you really need for school this year. Links in the description if you're ready to make a purchase. Likes if this video has brought you some value, and subs if you don't want to miss out on the future uploads. I'll see you here in the next one.